Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the PodUp with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. PodUp, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Thursday. That means we're going to kick it off here in just a minute with our good friend from Jacksonville, Heisman Trophy voter and college football analyst Brent Beaird. Second portion of the show is the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. We'll have marvelous Marty Paulman from the PrepZone.com. We're right in the middle of high school basketball tournament playoffs and all that good stuff. But first, let's go to the Titan More Hotline. We're joined by Brent Beaird. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, I'm doing fine. Good to be on with you as always and talk about college football. And obviously, we've got teams such as Florida who are starting to get into spring practice. And it is right around the corner, different times for different teams. We don't know who all that is yet, but it's still fun to be able to talk about it. And the great thing is, compared to last year, we're going to have spring this year, so that's good news.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if the Gators are practicing this morning or in the afternoon. I hated those morning practices because, the field's got the dew on it. And
Sure.
The balls get all wet. So I don't know what time they're practicing today. But
I think it's 1 o'clock. I may be wrong, Shane, but it seemed like I saw 1 o'clock somewhere. So they start today.
Because nobody really has classes, so you can pretty much start when you want because everything's done online still. So anyway, the Gators, I guess, are we the first SEC team to crank it up for spring ball?
Yes. There's no one else that started at this point unless Vandy surprised us and doing something in secret. But no, the Gators are the earliest. I think most of the teams are planning on starting mid-March, which is usually the time that Florida starts. So yes, they are. They are the first ones on the field.
Yeah. Before we get into college football, I just want to say Gator softball last night wins a thriller against JU 1-0. They stay undefeated. I think Hannah Adams had the game-winning hit, and we got a Facebook Live here brought to you by Mellon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. John wants to know, Shane, Coach Walton knows way more than I do. Yeah, more than all of us when it comes to softball. But I was wondering why we have only seen Riley Tralasek for one inning so far. Look, I don't know. I know he's going to throw a bunch of different girls this year. He doesn't have a one ace pitcher, so you'll see a lot of different girls in the circle. I have no idea, John, but we'll find out. We'll see as the season progresses if she gets more time. Brent, in the college football, okay, they extended this dead period. Explain to me and to all our loyal listeners out there what all this crap means.
Well, they continue to delay the face-to-face visits. It's now extended to May 31, and it's been over a year now. So people are beginning to really ask some hard questions about why this continues, that we can get a football season in, but even with the advanced protocol that we've got now, that we can't have students come to campus or coaches to go and visit with them. And during a dead period, a college coach may not have face-to-face contact with college-bound student-athletes or their parents, and may not watch student-athletes compete or visit with their high school. So it really is getting the point with this, frankly, that it's getting ridiculous. I think they need to look at their committee, is what I'm hearing from other media members, because some of this committee really does understand what they're trying to do. So, and even Ross Bork, the AD in the SEC and at A&M, said this is very disappointing. We've made many advancements in protocols like rapid testing and social distancing in order to host families and prospects. If we don't have a clear path for June 1, we're doing a lot of young people a disservice. So that's from an SEC athletic director, and I think that gives you an indication of the frustration that's beginning to build over this dead period continuing.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what the NCAA is doing. It has to be some frustration among the coaches, but I will say this, Brent. Even being a former player and having a kid on the team and stuff, I'm not allowed to even go watch practice like I used to.
Yeah,
because I'm not in the testing protocol. They're still being tested multiple times a week. So I understand that when player X comes from Jacksonville, Rains down with his parents on a official or unofficial visit, why they probably don't want him talking to coaches, because now you're bringing somebody from the outside in that we don't know how much they've been tested or if they have the virus or what have you. Then say Coach Mullen talks to him, he gets it. Now we're shutting down all the practice once again. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think the converse of that is, or people who are saying after going through a football season and advancing the protocol the way that these schools have, give these schools an opportunity to do what they've been doing well. And these schools deserve a lot of credit for being able to protect their players. What we got through a football season, nearly through with the basketball season. So I think that's where the frustration is the schools know what they're doing. They should be able to have recruits on campus, but at this point, it's what it is. So we're looking, hopefully it will open by June 1, and at that point, we will have even further advancement, and people hopefully at that point will be able to move around a little more freely than they are now.
Yeah. Brent, I think the final coaching job has been filled down in Orlando at UCF. Gus Malzahn is your new football coach there. Are you surprised Gus took this job? And also, whatever happened with the whole Jeff Levy? I figured he was a shoo-in down there.
Yeah, I thought he might have been too, but for whatever reason, that did not happen. But a lot of this is your AD at UCF. It comes from Arkansas State, so and Gus was there years ago, so he knows Gus. Gus has a lot of ties to the state of Arkansas, and I'm with you. I frankly thought Jeff Levy would probably even been a better hire. Now the other guys who were involved with this were Phil Longo, who also was on the Mississippi Ole Miss staff. Last year, or I guess currently still, he's with North Carolina. They had a very, very good offense, and also Kent State's Sean Lewis, or the two guys we understand who were involved in the process here. Obviously, they weren't hired, but I mean, a lot of people have made this into between the time that Gus was fired at Auburn until the time he was hired at UCF, that now he's become Vince Lombardi for some reason in the minds of some media. Shane, I'll be honest with you that this is a very mediocre hire, frankly, and because your record is who you are. And Malzahn has averaged 4 losses a year at Auburn. He is 2-5 in bowl games, 8-17 against his biggest rivals, including 0-12 in road games against those teams. And for a guy to be this quarterback whisperer, they have really Auburn the last 6 years, and offense in the SEC were 8th, 10th, 6th, 8th, and 11th. So, and listen, the Auburn beat writers would tell you that he really struggled to develop a quarterback, and they really were horrible in recruiting on the offensive line. And now Auburn fans wanted Gus going 5 years ago, but Auburn beat writers have been very public about saying how bad their recruiting has been, and also the lack of development at quarterback. Now they've hired him. They're hoping he can be a Renaissance man and reinvent himself at UCF. But that's just being honest about this hire, Shane. It raised some eyebrows. A lot of people think that he's going to be great there, and hopefully he will be. But the truth of the matter is, his time at Auburn, there were some real highs, and there were a lot of lows and a lot of mediocrity too.
Yeah, that's true. I will say this though, Brent. You were throwing out all his records, while he's been at Auburn. That's probably the same records for pretty much everybody that's coached in the SEC West in the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, a lot of truth to that, yes.
Yeah, so, we'll see. I personally think the UCF job is a wonderful job. I think UCF's a good football program.
Yes.
I think eventually they're going to move up and be a Power 5 school here.
They are.
In the near future. All right, we had the Zucker on my show probably about a month or so ago. He was been an analyst at Maryland under Mike Locksley. He was living down at his lake house there in Lake Weir. But it looks like now he's going to be a full-time coach for Locksley for the Maryland Terrapins.
I'm happy for him, frankly. At 66, he is reinventing himself too. He has been named the associate head coach and also special teams coordinator. I mean, he's always had a reputation as a special teams coach. And Locksley's made some progress at Maryland. It always doesn't appear that way as far as his record is concerned. But hopefully this year will be better. And Zook will be one of the reasons that it is, and that they can make a little bit of noise. So congrats for Coach Zook in his new position.
Yeah, there's no question. I like the Zucker. It's amazing that he still wants – you can't get it out of these coaches, Brent.
No, you can't.
He's coached forever, and he's got to be like, what, mid-60s now, early 60s?
He's 66.
66, wow. I mean, he's a young 66.
He
very
is,
energetic.
absolutely.
We got a couple of Facebook Lives here brought to you by Meldon Law. John says he needs to name Zucker the recruiting coordinator. Well, I don't know who the recruiting coordinator is up there, but he's a great recruiter. Locksley supposedly a great recruiter.
Yes.
So anyway, but David says here, I don't know why, but I like the Zookster. I think a lot of people like Ron Zook. It just didn't work out here.
Yes.
Refresh your vehicle and your brand with the vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. February is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with Brent Beaird here on the Titan MR hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Brent's going to go get him a big Alabama Big Owl wrap on his car next week. Brent, let's talk a little bit about the SEC. Alabama is Alabama, obviously. They lost a couple kids to the Ben Davis, because somebody asked me about Ben Davis yesterday. So, of course, one of our loyal listeners, they asked if the Gators were looking at Ben Davis in the transfer portal. And quite honestly, I said, I don't know who the heck Ben Davis is. So somebody looked him up. He had 2 tackles last year.
That's right.
He's probably a very good player that got stuck behind some All-Americans.
Well, that's a lot of it. And the other thing is, in talking to some of the Alabama media, they told me that he could be a good player in the right system. The problem is he just never really picked up Saban's system. And defensively, it's very complex. And it takes some time to do so. But the reality is, and you hit on it, it's just the fact that Ben has really never done anything in Alabama. And one of the good things about Nick Saban is he tries to find the guys who don't, when it doesn't work out, and it always doesn't work out for every player, a soft landing spot. So hopefully Ben Davis will be able to do so. But my point in here is, wherever Ben's going, he's not going to fix your defense, okay? He could be a help, but he has just not proven to be a great player. Now, they've had a few guys who have transferred at this point. Ishmael Shropshire, who's a defensive lineman, Kevin Harris, who's a linebacker, defensive back Eddie Smith, and even their kicker, Joseph Bullivus, has also transferred, matter of fact, to Vanderbilt. So that's just going to happen. And once this waiver rule situation gets the one free transfer, once the NCAA is able to work on that, that's going to help. And by the way, what you may see is Henry To'oTo'o, the tremendous linebacker out of Tennessee. He may end up at Alabama too.
Mm. So real quick before we move out of Alabama, Nick Saban loses coaches every year, and we know he lost a ton this year with Sarkisian and a lot of offensive guys. This is the most coaches he's ever lost, right?
Well, it's certainly close to it. And the latest one that he's got is Jay Bala, who is coming in. He played at Wisconsin, and he was with the Chiefs. A lot of these guys, Bill O'Brien, Doug Marrone, are coming straight from the NFL. So, and as you know, one of the great recruiting pitches for Saban is you play here, you'll end up in the NFL one day. And he's bringing these assistants who that's where they come from, and they can talk the language of these guys.
Yeah, you know, speaking of the transfer portal, before we move to Georgia, and you can tell us what's going on there. I saw a stat, I think it was on Twitter the other day, Brent, and I've said this many times. I didn't know the numbers, but it's like 73% of the kids that went into the transfer portal last year and this year are still sitting in the transfer portal.
See, I think that's an issue that we don't talk enough about. I mean, the grass is always greener somewhere else, supposedly, but that is not always the case.
No.
That these guys get frustrated and they want to go somewhere else. Now, what we're also seeing is some of these guys are actually taking their name out of the transfer portal and they're coming back. So, and maybe they've seen that they're not having 15 schools look at them like they thought they would. So, but that's a point with this, Shane, that should be emphasized more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. What's going on up in Georgia?
I think the big thing for Georgia are a couple of guys who are coming back. Now, neither one of them have done much. Demetrius Robertson, who is the wide receiver, they came out of a Cal. For whatever reason, he just has not really gotten that involved as far as being a success with the offense. Now, part of his issue right now is he made the mistake of removing a parking boot on the Georgia campus, and the authorities, Shane, as you know, take a real dim view of that. So, and people may not realize, but that is a felony. So he's going to have to get that straightened out. And also coming back is Julian Rochester, who's a defensive tackle. He's a redshirt senior. Now, he has never really done a great job. He's 6'5", 320, which you would think he would. I mean, he's appeared in 51 games since 2016, but has never been really the force they thought he would be. But again, I mean, you appreciate depth. And Shane, don't you have to have a number of guys like that? I mean, they may not be superstars, but they know the system, and they can spell your starters for a little bit. So I think that's kind of what both these guys are.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question you need those kind of guys on your roster. Brent, we talked, I think, last week a little bit about LSU. I think this is a huge year for Orgeron, coming off the year they just had. They got the transfer from Clemson. I've never heard. Did the kid from Clemson say why he left Clemson?
No real answers to that at this point. We're talking about Mike Jones, 6 foot 220. And he's a redshirt sophomore. He'll give them some experience. He had 30 total tackles during the time that he was there. Had in 10 games, started 7 of them. And again, the thing we have to remember is he's going to have to wait until the NCAA passes the waiver rule. Now, again, we have heard this probably is going to happen in April. And by the way, we mentioned Henry To'oTo'o a minute ago. His father, in an article, mentioned the same thing, or that Saban told him that he doesn't need to make a move until April when this becomes reality. So you've got a couple things going on here. You've got this NCAA waiver that they're going to do, but as you know, Shane, the SEC has their own stuff. So basically, and not much is talked about that. But players are going to have to clear both these things. I think they probably will. Oftentimes it's a formality, but that's a part of the process.
Tennessee, they've pretty much filled their coaching staff now. I can't remember who they hired as their defensive coordinator. Let us know about him. And also, I know we talked last week about Kevin Steele. Have you heard anything what his role is going to be up there now?
Kevin Steele is still in the office at Tennessee, and we've heard that he will not be retained. But, of course, now in the process, he's made about $1 million in 3 weeks, which is a good job if you can get it, isn't it, Shane?
Absolutely.
But yeah, he's still up there. I mean, there is nothing different about Kevin Steele going to another job. I can tell you this, he won't be working for his former boss, Gus Malzahn, but the Tennessee staff pretty much is intact. There are a lot of names here that people probably don't know. You may know more of them, but Cody Burns from Auburn is a wide receivers coach. He was at Auburn too. Now, some names you will be familiar with. Rodney Garner, who came from Auburn, has been hired as a defensive line coach, and Willie Martinez is probably the most recent hire as defensive backs coach. He was at Georgia, Tennessee, and Auburn, and they're kind of different reports about this, but they're either finalizing or have finalized a deal with Penn State co-defense coordinator Tim Banks to be their new defensive coordinator. So let's be honest about this, Shane. Josh Heupel brings in his own staff, but a lot of people don't, frankly, recognize the names.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Brent, we haven't really talked much about what's going on up in Tallahassee. Any news coming out of there?
Well, I mean, I think they are. They've done a lot with the transfer portal. Mackenzie Milton coming from UCF, if he's healthy, I think he could help them tremendously. But they have been as busy probably there as they have been anywhere else. I still think Mike Norvell would do a pretty good job at FSU. And again, remember, they've got one of the headliner games on Labor Day weekend. They play Notre Dame, not on Saturday, but on Sunday night. So during Labor Day weekend, they frankly ought to have several games on Sunday night, and hopefully one day they will, which I think will be important to be able to do that. So, but very quietly, I think they've done more with transfers right now than they have anything else.
Brent, you live up in Jacksonville. Tebow finally hung up his spikes in baseball. Are you surprised at him doing that?
A little bit. Frankly, it looked like it was probably not going to work out. I give him a lot of credit. He pursued the dream and probably went as far as he could go. But I can tell you, in interviewing over the years, a lot of guys who've gone to the minors, and you know this, Shane, very well. It's tough, isn't it? I mean, look, I've talked with guys who were in the minors for 10 years, and they just finally said, look, my family came to me and said, I've just got to get a job, and we've got to start our life. So now again, Tim's got options that a lot of people don't, and he's earned those. And it would be very interesting to see where this goes and what he does. Tim could do a little bit of anything, frankly. He could stay in TV. He could be in politics. He could be in evangelism. He could be on a coaching staff somewhere. A lot of speculation about, will Urban Meyer hire him to do something here? Right now, we don't know. But frankly, I've often wondered if Tim may join the game day group on Saturday mornings one day, or at least have a little bit more of a role than he does now. That's going to be very interesting to see, isn't it, Shane?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way he gets into coaching. I just think he's got too much stuff on the outside going on to be a coach.
Yep, I agree.
And I said it was yesterday or the day before that, and then he ends up retiring. Maybe he was listening to my show. I said he needed to give up baseball, and I thought Urban should bring him in. And I know it's been a long time since he's played football, but hear me out here, Brent.
Sure.
They could use him even though Trevor Lawrence is a very athletic guy who can run the football, but how the Saints use Taysom Hill. And the reason I say that is because, in the past 6 or 7 years, when people have been just wanting Tebow to be a Jacksonville Jaguar, well, there's a lot of stuff that goes with that. So if he's sitting on the sideline and you have Gardner Minshew or whoever the other quarterbacks that have been playing for the Jags stinking it up, people are going to be booing and hollering for Tebow. And so then you get all this division in the locker room, maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now everybody in the stadium in the city of Jacksonville, even if Tim Tebow's on your football team, he ain't going to be the best quarterback. So it's Trevor Lawrence, but I think he could bring some excitement, and he knows what Urban wants, and he would be good in the locker room. I think he'd be good for Trevor Lawrence. I don't know. It's just a thought, and it's just kind of weird how it's happening now that Urban's the coach, Tim's hanging up baseball. Maybe it does happen. I don't really know if it will or not, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought they should have got him in there years ago, and it would have helped them overall. I'm with you. I think the intangibles that he would bring for them would greatly outweigh any problem associated with it.
Yes, there's no question. Any other nuggets, Brent?
Let me mention a couple things real quick that may not be SEC related, but people may not have heard them. Illinois is playing Nebraska in the season opener. It was originally going to be in Ireland, but now the game has been moved to Champaign, and it's going to be a week 0 game. So we're back to week 0 games. If you remember, it will be in August. And this is one thing that was kind of interesting too, is Army-Navy will be played in New York City for the first time since 1931.
Wow.
That's amazing when you think about that. So it's going to be on December the 11th is when that's going to be. And there's also actually going to be, this kind of went under the radar, that some of the appropriate committees for the NCAA are going to look at how to deal with players faking injuries. So we don't know really how this is going to flesh out at this point. There's some talk about may require a player who leaves the field following an injury to miss at least the remainder of the series unless the coach takes a timeout to keep the player in the game. But the NCAA Rules Committee is expected to discuss this at a virtual meeting next month. So who knows, Shane, where that may go. I guess it's probably good that they are looking at it a little bit to see what they can do and how they can fix that. But, that's kind of where it is. And by the way, also C.J. McWilliams, and you probably already mentioned this, people who missed it, is going to Purdue, the Florida transfer. So just wanted to kind of throw that in there too. But with spring heating up in the next few weeks, will be, as always, a lot going on in the world of college football.
Yeah, last thing before we let you go, and good thing for CJ, he found a spot to go. He's not one of those guys stuck in the portal. I want to get your thoughts on the conference tournaments in college basketball. We're getting close. I think there's 5 regular season games left. Then you start all the conference tournaments. I think the SEC is scheduled. I know they were in Nashville last year. I think it's back in Nashville.
Yeah, it is.
Do you think, there's some people out there that think they need to cancel the conference tournaments to guarantee teams get into the big dance with, all the COVID issues. I'm on the other side. I think they need to continue playing the conference tournaments because I think it adds excitement and it allows teams to increase their rankings and their seeds and maybe possibly get into the tournament. So your thoughts, do you think we move forward with those tournaments?
Yeah, I think we do. I think there's too much money in it to begin with. I think the commissioners and the presidents have decided that that's what they're going to do. Now, look, could that change? Yes, we've seen a lot of things change. But and to your point, which I think is very important, I think a team can take advantage of it for seeding. You might get a better seed in the NCAA tournament. For some teams like an Ole Miss, that they can actually get in the tournament. For a team like Arkansas, who is red hot right now, it may help them continue to move along. So I think for two reasons right now, there's too much money in it that's involved, and the more practical reason is for these teams to make the tournament. That's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, Brent, have a good weekend. Be safe. We'll talk to you next week, my man.
Always enjoy it, pal. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan More hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. At Comfort Temp, comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchased at $199 value. The service department's open 24 hours a day for your convenience. This Day in Sports brought to you by Comfort Temp. In 1990, the 32nd Daytona 500, Derek Cope wins after Dale Earnhardt shreds his right rear tire on the last lap. That's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. We're going to take our first time out of the program. When we come back, we're going to head over to the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup, talk a little high school basketball, girls and boys, with marvelous Marty Paulman from the Prep Zone. You're watching and listening. PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Chomp Harder Apparel,
Silver Q, State Farm Insurance Agent Ruse Ogra.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all our great sponsors that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Y'all see how I did that right there on the move? Changing the background. That was pretty smooth, wasn't it? At Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida. I understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. Center State Bank, member FDIC. Before we get to Marty Paulman, want to let everyone know, make sure you go to podupwithshane.com, and we're giving away the G-Tech Sport 24/7 COVID-19 Survival Protection Kit. The winner this week goes to McKay Miller. So contact the great staff here that runs my podcast, and I'm sure they can somehow, they will either hand deliver it or mail it to you. Now let's go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to be joined by the PrepZone.com's marvelous Marty Paulman, talking a little high school sports here on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. Good morning, Marty. How are you, my man?
Morning, Shane. Good to be with you as always.
Absolutely. Well, Marty, I need you to give us a rundown. I've lost track of time. I know we're done with district tournaments. The girls are, I think, a week ahead of the boys. Let's start with girls. And I want to say Cornelius Ingram's back at it again. If he's not, his girls, aren't they going to the Final Four again?
Yeah, that's right. We are about a week ahead of girls basketball. So the Tuesday night, Trenton and Hawthorne won in 1A. So they're going to play each other next Wednesday in Lakeland in the state semifinals. So
that doesn't make a whole lot of sense when they could meet in Gainesville and play.
I know, and that's exactly what I was out there Tuesday in Trenton for that game, and they were saying the same thing. Why can't we just play Hawthorne here, or in Hawthorne, or in Gainesville? I don't know what. Meet them halfway. But yeah, that's kind of the reaction they were having. So the last two state champions in Class 1A, Trenton won it 2 years ago, and then last year Hawthorne wins. Of course, they're the defending state champs. So you're right. It was a little bit confusing, for them. But they're going to meet next week in the state semifinal round, Wednesday night, 8:00 in Lakeland. So one of those teams is going to go home, and the other is going to move on to the 1A state championship game next Friday in Lakeland against the team from the Panhandle, either Port St. Joe or Ponce de Leon. Yes, that's the name of the high schools in the Panhandle. So, but good for them, though. Hawthorne had to go on the road down to Wildwood, who's also probably the top-ranked team in 1A. They've won a couple state titles recently, too, and Hawthorne was up 24 at halftime. So the team they knocked out last year in Wildwood in the region final, they go on the road, do it again. And Trenton had no problem at home with Brantford the other night. So both those teams get it done, Trenton and Wildwood. Unfortunately, their last night, not the same for Buchholz. They had the game for them against Navarre was pushed back a night because Navarre actually had to come from the Panhandle, that school located near Pensacola. Their schools were shut down on Tuesday due to they were afraid for the weather coming from over in that area, Texas, Louisiana. So the schools were shut down. Navarre had to come and play Buchholz last night, and Navarre ended Buchholz's season in the second round of the 6A playoffs, and Buchholz's season comes to an end. But they had a good season as well, district title, and they lost in the second round of the 6A playoffs last night. But that's our situation in the girls' playoffs. Two teams moving on to the state semifinals in 1A, and Buchholz's season, a good one, but lost last night in the 6A playoffs.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot here, Marty. Who's the better team, Hawthorne or Trenton in girls?
Well, I don't know, because I know both those coaches pretty well. So you're putting me on the spot there.
Okay. Really, so I guess you're an analyst, Marty. You're also an announcer. But who do you think's going to win the game? I should say.
Honestly, it's
they're not listening, Marty.
Yeah,
I'm not going to tell Cornelius that if you pick Trenton, I'm not going to pick up the phone.
Well, no, I mean, I got to tell you that from seeing both those teams this year, I don't know if honestly Hawthorne. I would give Hawthorne a slight edge. It's going to be tough to beat them. They're just the team on a roll. I think they're gonna. I would pick them before the season to repeat as state champs in 1A.
Wow.
Just an athletic team, shoots well, has a big girl inside, and Maya McGraw came in from PK Young. Going to have a big size advantage against Trenton. Trenton, though, is quick. They like to press. They'll press all game long, play really good defense, but Hawthorne can play defense as well. It's going to be a really good game. Trenton can really play hard. I would give a slight edge to Hawthorne just based on just a little bit better outside shooting team than Trenton. But I think we're going to see a pretty high energy game down there in Lakeland coming up next Wednesday night.
You're probably not familiar or that familiar with the teams up in the Panhandle, but do you think the winner of the Trenton Hawthorne game probably wins the state title?
I do, and you're right. I haven't seen those teams in the Panhandle, and that's the problem we have normally is we don't see them a lot. But these are again the past two state champs in 1A already in Hawthorne and Trenton, so I'd say either of these teams will probably have an advantage to win the state title, whoever comes out of that semifinal game on next Wednesday.
We're speaking with Marty Paulman here on the Titan MR hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Marty does a tremendous job with the PrepZone.com. All right, switching over to the boys. We just had the district championships, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Have we had the first round of the playoffs yet?
Actually, they're starting tonight, so good timing for you there.
Okay, so some of the local teams, I know Eastside. Were you surprised? Eastside's lost twice all year, and they've lost to Santa Fe both times. Does that surprise you?
Well, it does and it doesn't. The only issue there is I think Santa Fe but it comes down to the fact that Ernest Ross is just a monster. I mean, it's tough for Eastside does not have that big player, that big post guy, that big man that can deal with him. They just don't, and a lot of teams don't. But it's just one of those games where, and it's not like Eastside's been blown out by Santa Fe. They lost one game in overtime, and they lost one game last week by 1 point. I mean, it's been close both times. Now, I can tell you that Eastside was supposed to be going to the Villages tonight, and of course, the story came down last night that the Villages has had to forfeit that game due to COVID issues. So Eastside is already through to the second round next week, regional semifinals. So Santa Fe is a pretty big favorite tonight against Brooksville Central. So it looks like we're probably going to have a third meeting between Eastside and Santa Fe next Tuesday in the second round of the playoffs. So
will that be at Santa Fe? Do they host that? Will they host that?
Yeah, because Santa Fe won the district title. That would be at Santa Fe. Now, we don't know if Santa Fe is going to win tonight first in their opening game. But, yes, that's true. It would be at Santa Fe if they win tonight. And I don't know if it'll be in the gym at Santa Fe or if it'll be at the Legacy Park out there yet. But I think it looks like we're going to have a third meeting. So it is surprising that Santa Fe got Eastside twice, but especially because Eastside's only lost 2 games all year, both in the Santa Fe. But again, both games have been close. And if I were Santa Fe, I wouldn't want to play Eastside again. But if they win tonight, it's going to be, they're going to have a third shot. So I think that's very intriguing to see. So that was the story now. Eastside's already won their game tonight. They won't have to go to the Villages. And they get a forfeit win. And now Santa Fe, and they're a pretty good favorite, I would say, tonight against the Brooksville Central team that's 14-12. We're looking at a third Eastside Santa Fe meeting coming up next Tuesday in the regional semifinal round in 4A.
Some of the other schools in the North Central Florida area, I want to say Columbia, Lake City, still in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, Columbia, unfortunately for them, they had really been playing well. Eastside had been on a 17-game winning streak until Santa Fe knocked them off, and then they lost in the district championship game. Same for Columbia. They had a 10-game winning streak snapped in the district championship last week in 6A District 2, but they lost to Lincoln over in Tallahassee. Now they have to go all the way to Pensacola to play Tate, but Tate's a 6-win team who shocked everyone by winning their district. So you got to think Columbia's got a pretty good chance to win that game, even though it's on the road. So that probably would set up a rematch with Lincoln in the second round in Tallahassee. So, Columbia still has a chance, I think, to make a run there, although now they got to go on the road. Last year when they advanced to the Final Four, they were at home every game. So, it'll be a little bit different run for them this year if they're to advance, back to Lakeland. So, unfortunately, that district, you lose that district championship game, that puts you on the road. And then you look down the list, too. Of course, PK Young won their district title. They'll be at home tonight to start the 3A playoffs against Trinity Prep out of Winter Park. So they'll start at home in the playoffs tonight. And then they're looking at either St. Joseph Academy or St. Augustine or the First Academy of Orlando in the second round if they win. And then St. Francis Catholic won their district title. Their record right around 500, a little bit under 500 overall. But they've played a pretty tough schedule, a lot of teams over their classification in 2A, and they'll host a team out of Tallahassee tonight, St. John Paul II, to open the 2A playoffs. So congratulations, Coach Silva and his team getting another district title out at St. Francis Catholic. And then, as usual, the 1A schools, another defending 1A state champ. We talk about the Hawthorne girls. The Hawthorne boys won the 1A state title last year too, and they'll open defense of their title tonight. They won another district title. They beat Williston last week in a thriller to win the 1A District 7 title. They'll host the team out of Lake Wales and Vanguard tonight to open in 1A in Class 1A. Pardon me. And Williston's going to have a tough opener at Wildwood. Meanwhile, Trenton, they won their first boys district basketball title in 21 years last week by knocking off Bell. They'll host Hamilton County tonight.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0800. 840. We're speaking with Marty Palmer from the PrepZone.com from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Got a couple of Facebook Lives here brought to you by Meldon Law. Rick says, Buchholz girls lacrosse beat Southlake 15-1 to start their season. Dan has a question for you, Marty, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. He's out in Texas. He wants to know, how is Nice basketball nowadays? And I'm thinking he's probably talking about girls, because they're usually pretty good in girls basketball.
Yeah, they are. Actually, they were off to a pretty good start this year, and unfortunately, they ended up getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs by Spruce Creek, who's even better. But yeah, they were having a good season this year. Then they made it to the state finals a few years ago. So yeah, girls basketball has been good at Nice. Boys actually had a pretty good year this year too, but they got knocked out in the district semifinal round. So yeah, Nice girls have had a pretty good team this year. So not bad, and not bad for them. Yeah, lacrosse, you just mentioned that. Lacrosse just got underway this week along with baseball and softball. So, yeah, trust me, there's a lot going on right now, and we haven't quite scratched the surface of that because there's been so much basketball going on this week.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you're on the call of any games this week?
Yep. I was at Buchholz last night. Was out in Trenton Tuesday. We were hopefully another game. We were going to be in the Villages tonight for that East Side game, but that's been postponed. So yeah, we're gonna always somewhere. It's been a pretty busy time, so we're probably going to be somewhere tonight. Still figuring that out. And yeah, we've been pretty much somewhere every night. But soon, probably the next couple of weeks, we'll be starting up with our baseball coverage as well as softball, and we'll be mixing in some lacrosse as well. But we'll have a couple of more boys basketball games. Probably looking at Eastside Santa Fe if that's the game next Tuesday as well. And I think we're going to try to bring the Trenton Hawthorne game as well from Lakeland next week on the Prep Zone and also on radio. So we look forward to some more basketball, some state playoff and state semifinal games next week. So yeah, we're staying busy right now with the Prep Zone as we head into the postseason, head towards baseball and softball season.
Hey, Marty, when you go to these gyms to call these games, are you having to wear a mask while you're calling the game?
Well, yeah, here in Alachua County, we're wearing masks, to go in the gym, and all the fans are wearing masks. Technically, I don't usually wear one calling the game because I'm.
Yeah. Okay, so you don't wear one while you call the game.
Yeah, I mean, you can if you wanted to. I don't know if you wanted to. I personally don't because I'm kind of away from everyone, and that's just a personal thing. I feel like I have a hard time talking with it on.
Yeah, but, I hear you. Real quick, last thing for you, Marty. Are the FHSA, everybody all set to have spring football this year?
As far as I know, yes. I haven't heard anything about that, but I have not heard anything that they're not having it. So that would start in May. So unless we hear something soon, I'm assuming they're planning on having it. I know we're hearing a lot of the college teams are going to be having spring football. So I don't think anything has changed as far as spring football is concerned. But we'll check into that and see. But that'll be coming up, about the end of April, beginning of May. So right now. Yep, as far as I know, spring football is on for the high school football teams. Yeah,
Dan says here on Facebook Live he noticed that the softball announcers had masks on during the broadcast. So I was just curious if you had to do that here in Alachua County. I know they're pretty strict with that, but it'd be hard to call a game with a mask on. Marty, let everybody know how they can check out all y'all's stuff on the Prep Zone.
All right, check us out at www.theprepzone.com. And again, got a lot going on, so be sure to check us out. And we'll hopefully be somewhere tonight. Like I said, that game, East Side of the Villages game, was postponed, so we won't be there tonight. But we'll hopefully be check us out hopefully somewhere tonight for the first round of the boys basketball playoffs.
Appreciate it, Marty. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you on down the road, my man.
All right, QB. Thanks as always. See you.
That's marvelous. Marty Palmer from the PrepZone.com. Join us here in the Titan MR hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Going to take our final time out on this Thursday edition. When we come back, we'll have a few news and notes, and we'll wrap up this program. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
Hey Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. PodUp with Matthews in the morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Darlene Weeby Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okito America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all our great sponsors that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point's where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Nike, Sensei, Dave & Buster's, and opening soon, Prime and Pearl, and coming spring of 2021. The HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visors Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. Speaking of the HBC's restaurant, folks, I think I talked about this the other day. Maybe it was on another show. You folks are going to be blown away. It ain't a sports bar. It's more like a high-end restaurant / sports bar museum. It's phenomenal. I can't even describe it. You're going to be blown away. Hopefully they'll be opening sometime in May or June, I believe. It's going to be tremendous food, but just the memorabilia, trophies, visors, stuff for you to look at. It'll blow your mind. Don't forget, go to podupwithshane.com, sign up for our drawing each week for the G-Tech Sport COVID-19 Survival Kit, and also the Chomp Harder hat. Go to podupwithshane.com. Just put your name in there. It's not a contest. You don't have to answer any questions. You don't have to do anything. Just our great staff will pull a name out of the hopper, and if you're the lucky winner, they'll get it to you by foot, by train, by airplane. Who knows how they will get it to you, but they will get it to you. Don't forget, tomorrow we are going to have Becky Burley on, who is still your soccer coach, but this is her last year. She has been here a long time, built a tremendous soccer program from scratch. So anxious to have Becky on. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask Becky, please send them to us via Facebook Live. And then next week, we'll have another good lineup for you as well. Don't forget, this weekend, if you want to have a chance to go to the Florida ballpark, watch Miami and Florida, go to Meldon Law, their Facebook page. I'm not sure exactly what you do. I think it tells you on there, but they're giving away tickets, which those are hot tickets because you can't just walk up and buy them anymore with COVID. There's a restricted amount of people that can go. And again, softball wins last night in a thriller. Hannah Adams with the game-winning hit. They win 1-0 over the JU Lady Dolphins. Rick says here, are you bussing? No, I'm not bussing. Our staff may bus it over to you. I'm not sure how they're getting these hats and these COVID survival kits to folks. I don't know if they're on their bikes riding them over there to you or what, but we will get them to you folks. But anyway, I think today's show is a wrap, and it is brought to you by Rap Spot. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for Becky Burley. Be safe out there, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
1st and 10. Matthews, near side, wide open, Alonzo Sullivan. He may go. Gators.